Hello again, Bernie Miklasz here with another Bernie Miklasz show here on my YouTube channel. Thank you for all your support, your comments, and a big shout out to all the Houston Astros fans who checked out my show on Sunday, the Bernie Miklasz Show Sunday, where I talked about Nolan Arenado and the Astros and how, in terms of his contract, it's actually less of a risk for the Astros compared to a much lengthier outlay if they had retained Alex Bregman, or if they would go back into it and try to sign Bregman again, which by all accounts, that doesn't look likely at all. Anyway, thanks to all the Astros fans. It was nice having you around. Stop by during the baseball season. I know the Cardinals and Astros are in different leagues, but man, that used to be a heck of a rivalry, huh? We're going to talk about the Cardinals, and we're going to talk about the payroll, and we're going to talk about the eventual test for Hein Bloom in this video, which I'm about to start. We're going to talk about the fact that at least financially and payroll, the National League is really flexing muscle and has for a little while now, and has kind of changed the power structure just in terms of payroll muscle, payroll might, and payroll authority, So I'll explain all this, okay, and how the Cardinals fit into that. But first, I always like to give you a little breakdown on the new hat. Although there's always a crank or two that has to be miserable and can't tolerate any levity, talking about something that's it's okay. We don't have to have the seriousness of heart attacks here doing the Bernie Miklasz show. We can have a little fun and go on little detours. It's okay. It's okay. Exhale. Yeah, feel better. All right, good. This is, and I really like this one. You see that? I'm getting a little closer here. See the lion? See the British flag? Yeah, Great Britain. 1957 Wembley Lions. And no, it is not a soccer team. It was not a soccer team. The design of the cap was inspired by the wool caps that hockey goaltenders wore in the British Hockey League in the 1940s. That was before masks and all that other stuff, right? So they would wear wool caps, and the Wembley Lions had an emblem on that cap, something just like this. I just think this one's really cool. All right. So just a brief history. In 1937, the Wembley Lions were invited to Maple Leaf Gardens in Toronto to compete in the World Amateur Championships. They got all the way to the finals and lost in overtime to the Sudbury Tigers. Pretty impressive. The Lions won the British League Hockey Championship in 1957. The league collapsed in 1960, but the Wembley Lions continued on. They played friendly hockey matches throughout the continent until about 1968. So anyway, that's a new addition to the hat collection. I like this one a lot. All right, let's talk about spending, payroll, a power shift in the National League compared to the American League, and what all this means for the St. Louis Cardinals. Let's talk about all this stuff. The National League teams, more and more of them, are owned by freewheeling spenders who are very, very aggressive. And you know who we're talking about. We're talking about Steve Cohen, the owner of the Mets. We're talking about the Guggenheim Group that bought the Dodgers a ways back. Mark Walter is their guy. Very, very wealthy, very, very aggressive, and do not hesitate to go for it every single year. And because of this, there has been a not so subtle shift in terms of the American League versus the National League. And I'll explain this. And I'm not talking about, well, this means that the National League will win all the All-Star games, which is just an exhibition anyway, or that this means the National League will dominate World Series play. No. You get into the postseason, a lot of it is randomness. And the New York Yankees got to the World Series last year, and I don't think they're anybody's pauper, compared to the Dodgers. They got plenty of money, right? So I think this impact of the National League getting stronger, again, more details to follow, definitely impacts the Cardinals and their chairman, Bill DeWitt Jr. The new paradigm also means more pressure, in my opinion, for Hein Bloom to draft and develop high-level talent and lots of it and keep it coming, and then make successful investments, top it all off, make successful investments in the more expensive and riskier contracts down the road. Don't ask me when, I don't know. Let's review. Why am I talking about the National League, the power in baseball, payroll power in baseball kind of shifting to the National League, which has not always been the case. In 2024, 8 of the 12 largest payrolls belonged to National League teams. That included 4 of the top 6 payrolls in the majors: Mets, Dodgers, Braves, Phillies. If we include the Giants, Cubs, and Padres, the National League had 7 of the 11 most substantial payrolls in the majors last year. Last season, National League teams outspent American League teams by nearly $400 million. How about 2025? Well, this could change, of course, because teams are still in business and, making plans and grabbing players for 2025. But right now, 7 of the top 10 projected 40-man, that the competitive balance tax payroll, 7 of the top 10 40-man payrolls are attached to National League teams. If you put in the Giants, 8 of the 11 highest projected payrolls for 2025, subject to change, but right now, 8 of the 11 highest payrolls in terms of the forecast are on the National League side. I mean, that is pretty prominent. That is really, really prominent. For years, it's really prominent because, again, this will have an impact on the Cardinals, and it'll challenge their authority. That's why I'm doing this. For years, the Yankees and the Red Sox and the American League East, the Blue Jays also would go nuts. They spent money like crazy, but that's changing too. The Red Sox they're heating up again, but they've backed off on payroll. More on that later. The Yankees will always maintain a very high payroll. Toronto is trying to spend money. It's hard for them to get somebody to accept the money when they pursue free agents, but I digress. But last season, so we used to think about the American League East as being kind of the power center of Major League Baseball. But it's changed. Last season, teams from the National League East and National League West had 6 of the top 11 payrolls in the majors. With the other 4 divisions, 3 in the National League plus the NL Central, the other 4 divisions combined for only 5 of the top 11. So just those 3 divisions had more. 3 of those divisions produced more higher payrolls, the number of higher payrolls, than the other the other 4 divisions combined, which tells you a lot. I think I was stumbling around there. My apologies. And the 2025 projections have it much the same way. 6 of the top 11 payrolls right now are located in the National League East or the National League West. So you see where the money is being spent, where the money is coming out of the owner's wallet, and where they're putting it. They're making players very wealthy. More on that. Ride with me. In fact, right now, as of today, 8 of the 10 largest contracts in Major League history, 8 of the 10 largest contracts in the history of the game belong to current National League players. 8 of the 10 biggest contracts ever belong to current National League players: Juan Soto, Shohei Ohtani, Mookie Betts, Manny Machado, Francisco Lindor, Fernando Tatis Jr., Bryce Harper, and Yoshinobu Yamamoto. The only American League dudes in the top 10 of the biggest contracts all time are Mike Trout and Aaron Judge. That says a lot. The way the talent shift, the money in the spending has caused a big shift in the talent. A lot of talent going from the American League to the National League because the National League teams have been more aggressive about spending. There's more teams in the National League that are really aggressive about spending compared to, well, how many teams in the American League are really going for it hard, right? and along those lines, in the last several seasons, we've seen some of the top hitters and pitchers who began their careers in the American League move into the National League. That list would include Ohtani, Soto, Betts, Lindor, Blake Snell, Tatis, Matt Chapman, Chris Sale, Dylan Cease. And the latest, as you know, to move over is the new Cubs right fielder, Kyle Tucker, who was acquired from Houston over the week on Friday. There are other players I could cite here, but I wanted to keep the list in check. I could put Sonny Gray on that list, but I wanted to keep it in check and only to focus on the guys that are, more prominent or making more money and all that good stuff. And part of the reason for the National League's rise in payroll power, and I alluded to it earlier, is relatively new ownership groups that have moved in over the last 15 to 20 years. The Guggenheim Group with the Dodgers, Steve Cohen with the Mets, John Malone with the Braves, Charles Johnson in San Francisco, John Middleton in Philadelphia, Jim Crane, native St. Louis in Houston, the late Peter Seidler, pardon me for that, in San Diego. And on the other side of this, we've seen American League teams kind of slide, cutting back on their spending, or and also spending money foolishly. So that's why the National League in the spending race and the talent race has sort of gotten the advantage on the American League, because a lot of American League teams have pulled back, or they're just being stupid about how they spend money, right? Prime example, Anaheim Angels, right? But some of the other teams in the American League that have pulled back or done stupid things and can't get out of their own way, that list of teams would include the Red Sox, the Blue Jays, the Angels, the Tigers, the Rangers. Yeah, I know the Rangers won the World Series in 2023, but Texas has failed to make the postseason in 7 out of the last 8 years. The Red Sox have missed making the playoffs in 5 of the last 6 years, and John Henry wants to spend more now all of a sudden. The Blue Jays have missed out on 5 of the last 8 years. They've wasted some money. Detroit has got a nice, young and talented team right now. They got a chance. It got to the playoffs this past year. They got a chance to grow into something pretty formidable, but they're going to have to spend some money. But anyway, Detroit failed to make the postseason for 9 straight years until getting there in 2024. The Angels continue to just flush money down the toilet. Artie Moreno, I think one of the top 5 worst contracts in the history of all sports. All that money he gave to Anthony Rendon, and Anthony Rendon just decided, I don't feel like playing. Oh, this hurts. And I guess he is hurt, but come on. He just has no desire to take the field. You know what I'm saying? Just not or he doesn't have as much enthusiasm as he used to, but I guess he's hurt. Anyway, the Angels continue to just waste incredible sums of money under Artie Moreno, they haven't had a winning season since 2015, and the Halos have made the playoffs only 1 time in the last 15 years. Keep spending, Artie. On the other side, the Dodgers, Mets, Padres, Phillies, Braves have been strengthened by aggressive, big spending owners that just don't care. They said, let's go for it. And I remember John Middleton in the run-up to eventually signing Bryce Harper. John Middleton in Philadelphia told reporters, he said, yeah, we're gonna go in pretty big, and we're gonna spend, and we'll probably spend foolishly, but we're gonna spend. And that's when he went out and got Bryce Harper, and it took a while, but the Phillies entered a real good spot, and they're one of the better teams in the National League. It's also true with the Cubs, who have not really used their financial war chest the way they should. I think they're starting to. But the Cubs did go in big on payroll to top off that young talent base. After they tanked, they drafted all these good players and yada, yada, yada. And they topped it all off by spending some money, and they spent some money in 2016 when they won it all. The Giants have had a lot of disappointing seasons as of late, but they're trying to fight their way back, and they are opening the money vault. So where do the Cardinals fit in here? That's why you're watching this. It ain't because of the hat, even though, look, that's a cool hat. The Cardinals, of course, they fit in the middle because they pretty much always, and well, going back to starting in 2016 or so, they've always kind of fit in the middle. I mean, they're not top 10 payroll. Uh, they're in that middle ground. They spend enough they can win if everything falls right, or they spend money properly, which they haven't. They have talent. Bill DeWitt makes sure that they have some stars. Goes out and gets stars like Arenado and Goldschmidt. I mean, all this, but I'm just saying. But they're always in the middle. It's not like, well, our goal period is to win the World Series. It's always like, well, we like our club. It's competitive. We think we can win the division. We think we can compete for a playoff spot. We think we can get a wild card. And then once you get in, anything happens. Yeah, maybe in 2006, but that team was actually better than the 83 wins it had in the regular season. That 2006 Cardinals team, I'll never forget it, in San Diego. That's where the playoffs started. We were waiting for the interview sessions. They were waiting for, the Cardinals are going to go work out at the Petco Park field, take BP and all that stuff, stretch their legs. And I remember walking in, or I remember standing on a wall near the clubhouse, because we were in the media holding pen. You had to keep the animals like me back, right? And I remember Cardinals, just filing in one by one. They're still in their street clothes, just one by one by one by one. And I told Rick Hummel, a couple other people, I said, gosh, look, there's a lot of talent that just walked by us. There's a lot of talent. And my dear late great friend, one of the great ball writers ever, Rick Hummel, said, well, Bud, he said, that's why I think they have a better chance than many people believe, because a lot of these guys were hurt. A lot of these guys were banged up, and now they're all look like they're ready to go. And that he was exactly right. So people talk about the Cardinals winning 83 games in 2006, which is factually correct, but they didn't have their real team. I mean, where everything was together. Everybody was pumped and ready to go. They went into the playoffs with their, quote, real team. And we saw the result of that. That was a great postseason run for the Cardinals. Anyway, but they've been in the middle a lot since around 2016 and on. I know they've made the playoffs, but come on, we're not talking about powerhouse teams. I thought the 2022 team could have gone deep into the playoffs, but Ryan Helsley and the manager blew game one of that Philadelphia series, and the rest is history. And then the team didn't have enough fight to come back from that. In recent years, the Cardinals have taken a downward drift in the 40-man competitive tax payroll. Here we go. What I'm alluding to, in the middle, in that comfortable middle, comfortable for ownership and management. From 2016 through 2021, the Cardinals ranked among the top 10 in the 40-man payroll in 5 of the 6 seasons. Between 2016 through 2021, 5 times in 6 years, they were in the top 10. But from 2022 through 2024, here's where they've ranked in order in the 40-man. 13th, 16th, 14th. They moved out of the top 10. One of the reasons they moved out of the top 10 is because of the new Cowboys in there, come riding in high, throwing money around, shooting off their guns. Boom, boom, here I am, not literally shooting off their guns, but you know what I'm talking about. Coming in to make a big statement. I'm going to go buy me some players, that kind of thing. And so when you have other teams on the National League scale and the Major League scale, all of a sudden owners are like throwing it in and throwing it down. Let's go. We're all in. Let's go, right? The Cardinals are still spending enough money to compete, but they have been bounced out of the top 10 because they haven't, as many of you have pointed out, haven't maintained the same payroll scale growth that some of these new ownership groups have had in terms of growing the payroll when they take over. You can still win with payrolls of the size we're talking about, 13th, 16th, and 14th, but not if you misspend while making a lot of costly personnel mistakes. If the Cardinals aren't going to have a top 10 payroll, they have to thread the needle, and they're going to have to be really, really, really sharp about building a top minor league operation, developing more elite players, and pitchers within their system. We've talked about this a lot, and that's why Hein Bloom is here, brought in by Bill DeWitt Jr. to make the Cardinals whole in terms of the player development and minor league system and all the infrastructure comes with it, so they can get that they can hit that player development mother load again, the way they did during the Jeff Luhnow years, which is why he brought Jeff Luhnow in from the business world, not a baseball guy, so to speak. So if the player development system and the operation improves because of all Hein Bloom's work, Rob Cerfolio's work, then DeWitt can pick his spots to spend more money on targeted free agency candidates or trades that bring established, more expensive players to St. Louis, like he did with Goldie and Arenado, two recent examples. Based on three breakdowns, real quick breakdowns that I read about baseball owners and their wealth, DeWitt is listed among the top 5 group of owners, in the top 5 group of owners in terms of estimated personal wealth. So DeWitt has the funds to become more aggressive. But here's the deal, and I've said this, as you know, a bazillion times. Only the most clueless fool among us, right? No offense if you happen to be that fool. I'm sorry. But only a fool would want the Cardinals spending a lot more money with John Mozeliak running the baseball department and making things even worse with more bad, really bad contracts. I still don't know why. There are people that would like to see that happen. Anyway, that's where Bloom comes in. He takes over the baseball operation, all of it, after next season. And we know what the immediate mission is, as it should be, not to stupidly spend money, but to build up everything you have from the ground floor and get back to what you had before and why you were so great from 2000 through 2015. A great system for drafting, identifying talent, developing players in the minor, and you just keep the pipeline flowing and flowing and flowing. You got to get back to that. I've said it so many times. I know I'm boring saying it again, but the point's got to be emphasized. So Bloom's immediate mission is just going to make sure, that the player development machine and minor league system is working at a high level. And he's got the right people in place. There's going to be more brought in. They're going to be announcing some stuff in terms of minor league staffing. That'll happen, I'm sure, before Christmas or maybe early 2025. But once they get that, working at a high level, after that, we're going to find out a lot more about Bill DeWitt Jr. We're going to find out more, but we're going to find out a lot more about Hein Bloom, because in his work at Tampa Bay and Boston, Hein Bloom established a stellar reputation for his acumen drafting and developing players, also finding really low-cost, potentially high-value pitchers or hitters that pay off in a big way relative to the investment level. And that's a huge part of any team's success. And the Cardinals are relying on Bloom to come through. And Bill DeWitt is very confident in Hein Bloom to come through. I'm very confident in Hein Bloom's ability to build a great minor league system with his man that he brought in, Rob Cerfolio, doing the heavy lifting. And they're going to be hiring more and more and more smart people, and that's what the Cardinals need. And all of their prospects and young players are going to have everything they need in terms of tools to be at their best, to develop as well as they possibly can. So here's what we don't know about Hein Bloom. I'm a Hein Bloom fan. I'm a fan of the hiring, okay? There's no question. But some of you who aren't fans of the hiring, with all due respect, you seem to have missed something about me. I have praised the hiring because I totally have complete faith in Bloom's ability to build a great player development system and to find really, really good value valuable players for the money that you put into them, right? Lower cost. But here's the part you miss about me and what I say about Hein Bloom. He's going to have a lot to prove. There are some things about him I'm not sure about because of the way it ended in Boston. And I'm not going to relitigate that because every time I bring it up, it's like, well, they hired him to John Henry hired him to rebuild a crappy farm system, right? The Red Sox had neglected it. They're throwing money around like crazy. John Henry said, enough. We got to get to the player development thing. We got to get our farm system rebuilt. We got to produce our own players. Hein Bloom's from that Tampa Bay model, and that's what his priority will be. Until, I don't know, 7-8 minutes later, John Henry decided, well, wait a minute. Our fans are mad because we're not spending money. So whatever. Bloom, the number one thing he was brought in there to do, he did very, very well. The owner decided to change the terms of his employment as far as what the priorities were. It happens. He got caught up with an owner that changes his mind, once every 90 seconds or so. No big deal. Smart baseball people are filled with nothing but praise for Hein Bloom, the work he did to give the Red Sox prospect base a huge boost. They've got so many great prospects right now, and maybe they'll send one of them here for Nolan Arenado. We don't know what's going on with that yet either, right? So here's what we do not know. How will Hein Bloom do if Bill DeWitt gives him the green light to go look for expensive talent in the upper tier of free agency? I do know this, and this didn't have a damn thing to do with Mookie Betts because he was ordered to trade Mookie Betts after Mookie Betts turned down a huge offer from the Red Sox. John Henry said, trade him. No more offers, trade him. And by the way, Hein, when you're talking to the Dodgers, now that I've ruined your leverage, because everyone knows I want to trade him. So good luck, because I just screwed your leverage up, okay? But what I want you to do is also, we can take a little less back if they'll pick up more of some of the salary, the salaries we're responsible for with some people we're sending their way to fill out the deal. So anybody that blames Bloom for Mookie Betts, that's my international signal for cuckoo. Anyway, the one big move he made in terms of spending money in Boston, that would be signing shortstop Trevor Story. It was in the spring of 2022. He gave Story a 6-year, $140 million deal, but it has not worked out. I'm not saying he was wrong to sign Story. Story, if he would have stayed healthy, probably would have hit really well at Fenway Park, and he certainly would have cleaned up their defense. But to this point, Story's got one more year left this year coming, but it hasn't worked out. Story, because he tore a shoulder muscle, had a torn labrum and something else. He's only played 33.5% of Boston's games over the last 3 seasons after tearing a muscle in that right shoulder. So I think it's the right shoulder. But he couldn't hit, he couldn't play, so whatever. DeWitt has a lot to prove because he is going to have to prove over the next 3 years that he recognizes the need to increase the payroll. I don't expect him to be playing at the top end of free agent bidders. Some of you will say, well, see, you're giving him the easy way out. No, I'm not giving him anything. All you need to do is look at his history of owning this team this will be his 30th season coming up. What's the most expensive free agent contract the Cardinals have ever handed out? I still believe it's Matt Holliday. What was it, $117 million? So, like, in other words, I got a little Christmas tree over there. I could stand up right now and tip that thing over and break all of the ornaments, smash them, because I want Bill DeWitt to go after the most costliest free agents, and I'm going to destroy my own room in here until he does it. And I'm going to scream, and I'm going to go on radio. See something? I knocked something down. See that? See that? I knocked Stan the Man down. How will I ever recover from that? Anyway, I could have tantrums and scream and holler and write columns calling Bill DeWitt names and pounding my desk and raising my blood pressure. But it's stupid because he's not going to do it. We got just about 30 years to tell us that. But he can spend more money. He's got to get him back closer. He's got to get him to the edges of the top 10. He's got to do that because at the top of the payroll scale, the big boys, the big spenders, it costs a lot more to get into the top 10 than it used to, is what I'm trying to say. And Bill DeWitt needs to recognize that even with a flowing farm system that's sending talent here, right? Even with the Hein Bloom, Rob Cerfolio rebuilding of the farm system and player development system, even if that's going well, you're still going to have to move this thing up to try to get at least to the edges of the top 10. Now, if you want to go out on the street, not my street, because I like it quiet, and you want to scream at the top of your lungs about, well, I'll never go to another game or watch a game until, Bill DeWitt spends X amount. First of all, you're entitled to do that because we all should make decisions about where our money should go. And if we don't have faith or comfort or confidence in a business, we shouldn't give them our money. I'm not going to knock anybody for that. Never have, never will. But I'm just saying it's not going to happen. Bill DeWitt's not going to all of a sudden say, you know what? He's going to call Bill DeWitt III and say, I think I'm going after Steve Cohen. I'm going to, whatever he's trying to do, I'm going to beat the deal. These Dodgers, they keep signing these players, and they've got this pipeline now to these great players in Japan. You know what? The heck with the Guggenheim Group. We're going to outspend the Dodgers, whatever it takes. We're outspending them, whatever it takes. Anybody of sound mind believe that's even like a 1% chance of that happening? It ain't going to happen. But he's going to have to spend more. And the farm system, the player development thing's got to be clicking. And when an opportunity presents itself to where the Cardinals will get out of their comfort zone and throw some money out there, as they did, although I don't want to use Goldschmidt and Arenado because even though they were paying a lot of money, the Cardinals didn't have to give up anything for him either. But you can do both. You can have a great farm system and player development operation, which I'm a huge advocate of because I have a memory that goes back a little bit. And I know the lessons of what history told us about Cardinals baseball with Bill DeWitt's ownership in the earlier years. But you can do both. You can have a thriving farm system, but you can also spend money that puts you in the top 10 or right there. And how do I know this? I know this because I saw the Cardinals do that. I saw this owner do that. And he can do it again. We know he's going to do it on the player development minor league side because you don't do that. You don't bring in Hein Bloom unless you're damn serious about that. And you don't tell him whatever it takes, go do it. And he's hiring great people that are not coming here making minimum wage. I mean, they're spending salaries to lure other executives out of front offices and some of their assistants who are like hot commodities rising up in the major league front office power grid. Guys that'll be running franchises soon. He's putting a lot of money in all this, as he should. But he's also, and I'm repeating myself, but he's also going to have to step it up. And he's going to have to supplement the good prospects, the great prospects that'll be coming through the system to St. Louis. Going to have to supplement them to round out, top off that roster, and to be totally primed to not just make the playoffs, but to have a really good, strong team to take into the playoffs. And then even with that, there are no guarantees. He's got to spend more money. He's got to, as I used to write in the Post-Dispatch, Bill DeWitt didn't like it very much. He's got to open DeWallet. DeWitt's got to open DeWallet. Bill DeWitt did like one thing I used to do when I was working at 101 ESPN. I had the DeWitt decoder. And what happened is he would give a press conference or he would answer questions and, everyone would, transcribe it, write it down. And it's just like, well, he didn't really say a lot there. And actually, knowing Bill DeWitt, no, let me decode that all for you. Here's what he means when he said this. Let me translate it for you. I'm going to decode it, okay? Because I know exactly what he means, even if he's making it rather vague. And I knew that I decoded something he said when he was asked about Mike Matheny, getting close to the time that they fired Mike Matheny. And when he was asked about Matheny, he said this, he said this, he said that. But I also knew what he didn't say. So I said, all right, we're going to have another round. We're going to go through I got another DeWitt decoder session for you. Here's what he said about Mike Matheny. All right. Throw it out, because now I'm going to tell you, with the help of my decoder, I'm going to tell you this is what he meant, even though he didn't say it. So I was on the phone with DeWitt not too long after that. And he said, I got to tell you that decoder thing's pretty funny. And I said, I'm accurate, right? He said, yeah, I guess you are. That's pretty fun. That's pretty good. I got to give you credit for that one. So I had the DeWitt DeWallet. He's got to get the DeWallet. He's got to open up the DeWallet at some point when he's got a good young team and they're ready to go, but they need to be topped off with some established, proven talent. You got to open DeWallet and then go from there. And then maybe down the road, I'll have another reason to activate the DeWitt decoder. Okay. For now, however, I'm going to shut up because I'm dragging this thing out because I'm amusing myself with some of the little stories from my career. Anyway, I got faith in Bloom, but we're going to have to see more when they're ready to win, what he can do to make that possible in a big way. I got faith in DeWitt because he wouldn't have brought in Bloom unless he is fired up to get the Cardinals back to where they should be. But DeWitt's going to have to prove he will, in fact, loosen it up a little bit and get to that top 10 in payroll once more. All right. You all have a wonderful day. I really appreciate you for watching me here on Bernie Show. And let me go pick Stan the Man up there. That's awful. Do I have to go to church? Do I have to go to mass or confession for that? It was an accident. It was an accident. I would never hurt Stan the Man. Even the Stan the Man book would never do that. Anyway, you take care.